All right, we are live, beginning of fall tour. Let's go. Hold on one second. Of course, not everything's working. So, yeah, we are live, beginning of fall tour. Here we are. We're doing it again. We've got Adam. We've got Dean. Dean of many personalities. Today he's Breakfast with a Ravelo. Some days he is Goose the Band Trivia. Yeah, so welcome, guys. Really appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me again. This is my 2.5 time.
This is your 2.5 what?
2.5 times on this show because I came.
Oh yeah, right. We found you in the hotel lobby.
Yeah, I just got pushed in halfway through, so 2.5 times for me.
Excellent. All right. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk about this show. We're going to ignore the fact that Ryan is not here and that he's on a plane. This is probably going to be the best live version of Always Almost There ever. So start us off, Dean. Tell us about the venue. What was it like getting in?
So I'm 90 minutes away. I live in South Jersey, so easy ride up. Parking, we got there pretty earlier than I thought. Before the venue said 4, we got there around 3:30, and they let us right in. There's a couple lots. Some of the far lots are kind of a pain to get there, but we ended up in the front lot in the free parking and pick your spot anywhere we wanted. The vending outside, there was no vending. There was no one selling anything, so there was no shakedown. Just a bunch of people hanging out at their spots, cooking, grilling, drinking, whatever. There was no issues at all. You read about issues online with this venue, with police and stuff. Zero. There was nothing. It was great. And I will say that getting out of the venue is even easier because the parkway is right there. So you drive out of the venue and you're on the parkway within eighth of a mile and you're on the parkway. So it's very easy to get out of.
Yeah, I was noticing that last night. There was a couple of people that I was talking to after the show, and like briefly after the show, they were like, "I'm home," which was kind of amazing. So it is like the opposite of the my home field experience of going to like Great Woods, and you're in that parking lot for a couple hours sometimes trying to get out. So you were just quick out and at home.
Just out, 5 cars in line and out. Yeah, real fast. Just as easy as it could ever be.
Amazing. Yeah. So tell us about getting into the venue. Like, what were vibes like? Do you see any people there? What was that
So,
like?
a lot of people I know. So a lot of familiar faces and a lot of people I obviously didn't know. Of course, it's a big venue. But it's like your standard amphitheater. You got the lawn in the back. You got the seating in the front. It's got the man vibes. I feel like it's more open. There's more air coming in. The ceiling's higher. So I guess it's got that real high ceiling with that interesting hole at the top, which has some kind of I don't know, it looks like something that not going to discuss online, but it does have a vibe of something phallic. But it's a cool venue. The vending was great. It was easy. There was, I guess, 2 merch stands, one on each side of the venue, and a ton of inside vending for whatever you wanted. Obviously, it's like $20 a beer too. I think I bought 1 beer inside. It was like $20, something like that. But really easy. They actually did the Star Spangled Banner, I think sometime around 10 after 7 or 7 o'clock. And we were still outside, inside the venue, but outside our seats. And we realized that was the call to get in. Then we went inside and no one was in there. So it's 10 after 7 and the seats were empty. And I was like, where's everybody? But lo and behold, by the time the show started, that indoor seating looked like it was at full capacity. I did not get a chance to see what the lawn looked like during the show at all. Well, we never got out of our seats. So I didn't really get to see how full the lawn actually was.
Yeah, that was the one big question I had about this one, because, Goose is now doing sheds here and there. They're not all the time, right? Like, we're not doing Great Woods right now in Boston. We're going to have MGM, which is like a 5K capacity venue. So they're kind of picking and choosing their spots. It felt like this venue was a reach for them, but it sounds like there was quite a few people there, or quite a bit of people there. So.
It was inside was a full capacity crowd. I mean, keep in mind Labor Day weekend on a Sunday night. That was probably tough just to begin with. But again, I know the lawn. I know there was probably plenty of tickets still available, but it did feel pretty full in there at close to capacity. I guess what I always wonder is what percentage of people are seeing Goose for the very first time. And I'm guessing that it was a higher number, given obviously the capacity at the venue, probably a pretty higher percentage than a lot of the smaller shows like the Boston shows, of course. So.
Yeah. Right on. Adam, tell us about your pre-show. You were couch streaming last night or couch touring last night?
Yeah, was out home in California. Didn't make it out there. By the way, East Coast start times for West Coast are ideal. Some time in the pool, clicked it on outside, watched a bit of the first set, came inside and watched the second set. Just love it. It could finish and still have time for dinner. So perfect couch tour when they're on the East Coast. Yeah, it was just really fun to be back and have a few tech streams going and get a chance to click and watch in.
Right. I mean, I think that was like the best part for me was just jumping back in a couple months after and just having all those conversations again and doing the couch tour thing. I think I was not ready for that. I don't think I was doing the set list thread last night for AAT, which was, we'll get into that. That was an adventure in and of itself. And I wasn't ready for them to come on. Actually, that was something that kind of took me by surprise because for some reason I thought last night ticket time was at 8 o'clock. I think because the Boston shows I'm about to go to are at 8 o'clock. And so when they came on stage, I think it was just about quarter of, I was not prepared to do the set list thread at all.
Yeah. Well, they were pretty punctual, I think earlier than we thought. And I was really vibing off the TED tapes or whatever they were playing before.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, they're in the middle of this hot jam. And then it just faded out and they did the bumper.
Yep.
But by the way, we should talk at some point. I don't know what they're playing in between, but it was great.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Dean, you'll be catching that maybe tonight. Really, really killer new TED tape vibes.
Oh, good. That'd be great.
Totally worth it. All right, so let's dive into the music here. And I'm going to kind of do this in little parts because this is going to be such a tricky one to do. There's a couple things we really want to focus on, and then a couple we're just going to kind of move over pretty quick. So we have a tour opening flopener and a Mr. Action. And then, this one really got me, Draconian Meter Maid. Dean, why don't you start us off and talk about those three songs?
Well, you get your double opener, essentially. I know you guys talk about it on the show a lot. Lately, they've been doing 1, 2, and 3 openers at once, which was great. I was wondering if we would get a third one. And then, honestly, when Draconian came on, what is this? So I'm relaying on you guys on the Twitter for the name of the song. People are texting me I have no idea. I don't know what the song is. The minute you posted the song, I go right to Google, type it in. I see Swimmer right away. So I added Swimmer on the tweet. I knew right away it was a Swimmer song, which is cool. It's always great getting the first time played. I mean, it's just awesome. It doesn't matter what it is. Just the first time played for any band, really, for the most part. It's just something special because you really don't know what a decade from now it's going to be like and how the song's going to develop, how popular it's going to get. And if it is something that's just like a home run, it's just awesome to be there for the first time ever. So it's pretty cool.
Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, kind of the unsurprising flopener. I think this is the second tour opener where they did with Cotter with Flowdown.
Yeah, they did the cap too.
Yeah, it actually didn't have as long of an intro, I think, as some of those. But it was good. I thought actually Mr. Action felt like it had a little room to run in the middle. They were getting a little energetic, and then they came back to the verses. But I wondered actually if they were going to open it up. And then on the couch, we're doing the same thing, Dean. It's like looking up lyrics on Google and trying to figure out what's going on. And slowly, I guess it came together. I actually didn't know who Swimmer was. So people kept writing Swimmer, Draconian Meter Maid. I'm like, I have no idea what any of that means.
You need to follow my Facebook group. If you follow my
right.
Facebook
It's always
group,
fun when there's a bust out or a debut. I'm sure it's not going to sound like this forever, but it was fun to get. It was fun to get something new.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mr. Action in here was extra hot, and I think it was a beginning of something that I noticed over and over and over again throughout the night, and I think a bunch of other people noticed this, but Peter's piano playing, oh boy, has it improved. I don't know how he continues to do it. We talk about it on the show all the time, but he's continuing to level up on his instruments, seemingly all of them at the same time. But last night, I just kept hearing the piano and sometimes, like in a jam or something like that, you can hear somebody playing and it just kind of washes over you and you don't really notice. It's just all part of the jam. Last night, it was like, wait a second, this is a little bit different. This is a little bit better than it has been in the past. And I stood up and took notice a couple times. And I did notice that in the piano solo that Peter took in this Mr. Action, it was really, really good. So that was the first time that I kind of noticed that in the show. And then again, the jam that came out of Draconian Meter Maid, which, you know, I think it was a little bit rough pulling into Draconian Meter Maid. I think Cotter's mic wasn't turned on for the first half of the first verse that he sang.
It wasn't.
So, you know, it's just like when Jeff started with the band, you know, I was at the show in Swansea, and like Jeff, the mic just was not on at all. And they actually joke about it from the stage where they say, like, you know, Jeff is on mic. And I think that actually happened there, like might have taken everybody by surprise. Like, you know, the crew didn't even see the set list knowing that this was going to happen. Who knows? But it's a little bit of a rough start. And then the jam that results from this actually, again, ties together with the rest of the jams that come through this show. Nobody was really kind of shredding or ripping in these jams. It was all kind of that collective improv that we kind of like to assign to Eggy, you know, all the time, where, you know, Ryan would call it like that egalitarian jamming. And like, maybe that's kind of what we were seeing here. But Rick wasn't really standing out. Peter wasn't really standing out. Kind of like the whole band was just, you know, swelling throughout this jam. And it sounded really, really good, and was a surprising turn from the actual song itself. Didn't feel like connected to the song in any way, just kind of immediate, you know, type 2 territory, if you want to call it that. So really cool stuff to start the show. I mean, you know, you get kind of two predictable things, and then one that absolutely blows your mind with Cotter on vocals, which, you know, we've been talking about it, and I've been excited about him singing, and we've finally gotten it. To be honest, I thought it was going to come in a cover. I didn't think it was going to come in an actual Swimmer original, but I also just like the idea of them doing Swimmer's catalog, picking some pieces out here and there. I mean, they've historically done it with guys in the band. You know, we've got like a whole bunch of great blues songs. We've got a whole bunch of Vasudo songs. They're all part of what is Goose. So it only makes sense that they pull something from Swimmer, and maybe they'll pull more. I don't know.
Yeah, but, I think about like getting Pancakes or something from Great Blue. Now it's a staple, you know.
Right.
I think that was a great start.
I just wanted to say on the Draconian, there's a lot of bands that wouldn't start with like a 15-minute debut of a first time played. And I know we're gonna get to it later, but I just like every time they debut a song, it seems like they just go for it. Like there's no let's do a 4-minute version and we'll figure it out over time. They just jump in.
Yeah, I never thought, like, I do a lot of stats, so I never thought about going back and looking at Swimmer stats. But if you go on Bandcamp, there's about 5 versions of Swimmer playing the song, and every time it's 10 to 15 minutes. So it felt like it was the right length. It's nice to see, I guess, from Cotter's standpoint, he sings. There's some YouTube videos, so he's singing in the song with Swimmer, his old band. But so it's nice, I guess, the comfort zone of breaking him out for the first time singing probably worked perfectly with either a cover that he's played, or be an original song from Swimmer, bringing it over and stuff like that. So, which was great. And back to the Peter thing that you talked about, Neil, the crowd really cheers on Peter after he plays. I mean, just every little mini jam that he does, you get that crowd audience just picks it up and just absolutely just they feed off of it, and they applaud every single time throughout the show last night. It was really nice to see.
Awesome. All right. So moving on, we get into kind of highs and lows here with this show, right? So we get a very, very abbreviated drive, which reminds me that we might be back in the territory that we were in 2023 when there just were not any drive jams happening. You were kind of getting these very short versions. And I think Adam's got some stats on that drive, or one of you guys did. I noticed somebody posted something on Twitter. And then we get Seekers 1, Seekers 2, you know, in the first set is where we want to see that. And then also, you know, this tends to appear in some of their bigger shows. They did this same exact spot for CMAC when they were out at Canandaigua. So they seem to like that there. And then, of course, you get the big set 1 closer of Same Old Shenanigans. Again, I feel like this is them playing to the venue, playing that kind of big rock and roll song to close out the set. And it never misses, of course. So Adam, why don't you start us off with Drive Through SOS? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about Drive. They played the verses and then sort of sharp detoured to like a choppy transition. I wasn't really sure what they were doing. Like they were going to come back to Drive later. They never did. Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not a bunch of 6-minute drives from here forward, but we also got Fiddlers and Cap Drive this year. I mean, those are two phenomenally long and excellent ones. So hopefully it's just an anomaly. Seekers is Seekers. Maybe they'll jam Seekers 2 at some point. It'd be awesome. But I think any set that ends with Dawn is a great set.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, send everybody out with good vibes, high energy. I'm sure Dean will tell us, but I'm sure it's good vibes at Set Break with that Dawn closer.
Yeah, it was great vibes at Set Break with the Dawn closer.
Right on. Yeah, I would like to know what the thought process was behind the drive there. Just felt like a strange move. Like, why play it?
Yeah.
Like, why waste it? I mean, it's a jam vehicle. You've got a long run of shows coming up, all in geographically the same area. That just, I don't know. That one feels odd to me. But Dean, any other thoughts on this set before we talk about Set Break?
Yeah, so to give you the drive stat, I had tweeted it out. It was obviously it was the shortest song of the night. It was also the last time it was shorter than this was May 1st of 22 at Beale Street Festival, and that was at a festival, not even a full show. So yeah, that was a short one. It was a Rabela length. I mean, that's the length of time a Rabela plays drive probably, in that it was 6 minutes and 23 seconds, which is really short. Not terrible. I mean, I've had some great drive jams with some of the shows I've been to. So coming off of a longer song before that with Draconian, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't, what you're hoping for, of course. But it was solid. It ended quick, and I was like, "Where's the jam?" Next thing I know, we're into Seekers, which is great. I love Seekers 1 and 2. It's kind of funny because the magic of going from 1 to 2, I think only one time when they first played it did they separate them by nights, played them each one night separately, and you always wonder, are they going to do it? What are they going to do? And you wait and you wait. And then there's the first notes of Seekers 2, and you take that little sigh of relief like it's coming. Because you just never know. And it reminds you of like going back to the Dead days, like Scarlet Fire, China Rider, songs that always pair together. And obviously it's Seekers 1 and 2, so you expect them like that. But there'll be a point in time where they separate them and they just blow everybody's mind away. At a 3-night run or something like that, where you get Seekers 1 one night and 2 another night, or who the heck knows what they'll do. And then, yeah, SOS is great. I love it. I love it as a set closer. It's such a great song. One of my, I guess, favorite set closing songs. For a first set, it's awesome. So just absolutely loved it. The vibes are great, at Set Break. A lot of people got up. So I wanted to get up and use the bathroom, but my wife and I looked down. There was just such a swarm of people. I'm like, I'm never going to get back in time. Turns out that it was a longer set break than normal. It felt a little bit longer than normal set breaks. I think there was maybe 10 extra minutes and maybe 40. I don't know how long it was for you guys watching from the stream, but it felt like 40 minutes maybe instead of like a 30-minute set break.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I didn't notice. I was still kind of like reeling from doing like the set list thread. I was doing Fantasy Goose last night also. And like when I have a job like that, watching a show, like there's no time at all. Like it's just like I'm just constantly like doing a thing. But yeah, I guess it was like folks are saying like on the 36-minute side, which is like it's pretty healthy set break. Set break thoughts, Adam?
No, I just had a lot of text threads going. It was actually kind of nice to catch up. We started a fantasy soccer league, bunch of Goose Twitter folks, and that was blowing up the whole time. Josh was inside the venue, one of our interns, the
intern,
everybody posted, so that was a fun thread. So it was just fun to catch up with everyone after a couple months off.
Right on. All right, well, so let's start talking about the second set, because that's the meat of the show. That's the stuff that everybody wants to talk about, and I think we're just going to do this 1 or 2 at a time. That's the way to do it on this. But yeah, big set 2 opener of Big Modern, which we didn't know what it was for the entirety of the song. And what a really cool song this is. I mean, we're not going to get 36-minute versions of this every time they play it, I assume. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say, but I'm going to assume that we're going to get shorter versions of this, and it feels like the kind of song that can just be played on its own without a jam pretty much anywhere in a set. But as Goose does when they write newer songs, there's like different vibes throughout the song. But when I'm listening to the verses, I think of Credence, right? It's got like a bit of, Ryan's not here, but a bit of the Chugel and just the cadence of the words as, Rick sings them. It just immediately evokes CCR to me. And then when the jam starts, somebody said this on Twitter, and I couldn't agree more. The just Dire Straits just goes right into a Dire Straits vibe right off the bat. And then this whole thing just kind of took off and went to another planet. Didn't really take many twists and turns, but the jam was incredibly extended. And I think this is super exciting stuff that this band is doing, right? They're playing this enormous venue, this venue that's kind of like a stretch for them in New Jersey, where they're not really like hammering Jersey all that much. Where was the last place they played in Jersey? Was it like Stone?
July 3rd and 4th, Stone Pony.
Yeah. So, I mean, significantly different size venue from that, right? And then they go out there, they debut a song. So it's, if you're seeing this band for the first time, which ostensibly like 2, 3, 4, maybe 5,000 people were seeing their very first Goose show last night, right? And they're playing a brand new song in front of them, which is, an incredibly strong song, like I just said, but it's just brave. And we talk about this stuff a lot on the pod where we get like frustrated and we say like, oh, that was like a festival set. And like, that set wasn't for us. This set was for us. This had the good stuff. And it's interesting to see the band doing that in such a big venue. They could have just waited till Boston. It's a much smaller venue, way less pressure, but they went out and did it. Dean, what were your thoughts from the venue?
So we were lucky enough to catch the sound check, and we missed Draconian Meter Maid, which Brian told me later on that they had sound checked that too. But we came in at the sound check. They were working on Big Modern, so we had already heard the song, and they were working on what sounded like the ending, maybe 4, 5, 6 times. They just kept redoing it, pause, redoing it, pause. So it was kind of, and it turned out it was pretty much the ending that they were working on, which was cool. We loved it. In the parking lot, we loved the song. We were like, this is awesome. And we were like, what's it called? And we thought it would be One by One. That's what we originally thought, because they kept doing that ending, one by one, one by one. But no, it was great. And the minute they started playing it, I knew what it was right away. It's one of a few people that probably did, because we heard the sound check. So it was great. I loved it. I loved the jam. I love getting lost in a jam, shutting my eyes, which I do a lot when they're not singing, and just trying to bring in each instrument into me, going back and forth between everybody, trying to listen to it. I love the jam. It was great. It was long. I'll give you that. My wife was with me. It was her 5th show, and she does not like super long songs, so it got her a little bit on the lengthy side. No one around me, I don't think, was a veteran or a really hardcore fan. It looked like we had a lot of new people near us, so they kind of got caught a little bit in the waiting game. What's next? But it was a great jam. And, going back and listening to it today on the beach, which I did, was just awesome. I loved it. And shut my eyes on the beach and just get lost in it again. Absolutely loved the song. And I agree. This is a huge song. This is going to be a huge hit. You can just, when they come out of the gate, and with that, it's going to be awesome. So you can just feel it. And another song they jammed out in the beginning was Animal the first time. They did like a 20-minute version. Then they went short for a real long time, before I think in Europe they played another long one, but which is Animal's typically a shorter song. So obviously we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Adam, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Dean covered it really well. Maybe the only thing I'd say is I actually thought it ran a little long. I think I don't mind long jams, but I thought about halfway through it was sort of maybe just plodding along, and then they brought it back. But I felt like there was maybe a 5-minute stretch, or maybe they weren't sure which direction to go. It ended, or towards the ending, maybe the last 3 minutes, I swore they were going into So Ready. It has a full like So Ready kind of jam, that's sectional jamming, in a different key. But I really thought like, oh, they're gonna do something really interesting here, like jump in the middle of So Ready, and then they didn't. But fun. It's just fun to see a new big song debut. I think, like you said, Dean, you kind of have a sense that this is going to be a sort of mainstay in the set.
This is going to be a big one.
Yeah, I think they're going to play this one a lot. This feels a lot like what Hot Love felt like when they debuted that at the beginning of summer, where I was like, I have a feeling this one's going to get played pretty often. So, let's hope this doesn't get like the Salt treatment and get played once and never again. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that. But yeah, it really does kind of have that vibe of like it's going to be a hit. And like you guys said, that I don't know if the jam was particularly mind bending. I did kind of want to point out though, I was re-listening again today, and again it was this like full band jamming, like nobody was stepping to the front. Rick was doing a lot of like, for lack of a better term, like chord soloing over this. Like it wasn't quite rhythm, and it wasn't quite lead guitar. It was somewhere in the middle, and just kind of opened up a whole bunch of space for the bass and the drums to kind of really flourish. And then Peter's piano playing again in the first half of this, before the part that Adam was talking about, that kind of felt like they were going into So Ready. It kind of like did like a full stop into like a funk kind of, there was like the funk clav thing going, and it was like that can feel like pretty generic when Goose does that. But the first part with the piano playing with Peter was just absolutely gorgeous. He just has so much more dexterity on the piano all of a sudden. I don't know what it is, but it's great, and I absolutely love it. And yeah, looking forward to tonight too, just to see if that continues. So, all right, moving on with the set. We have Feel It Now. Actually, this is like, I'm gonna do like the pin plug here.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so we had Dean
There you
on
go.
just
You
for
have the
this
TED
Feel It
version.
Now. Yep, got the TED version on the hat. Dean makes those pins. Yeah, so this one was welcome. It had been a while since they played Feel It Now, and was the perfect song to put it into a 3-song second set. I can't think of a better song to throw in there. Kind of got people moving, has that kind of catchy vibe to it, and yeah, just was just the right thing to do in that moment. And it, to me, and I don't know, actually I'll ask you guys this question. Did it feel like it had a little bit different of a vibe? Like it was like slightly reworked? I haven't gone back to re-listen much
I
yet,
thought it
but
did. I haven't tracked this song's evolution that much. I know people talk about it had different intro and a couple different parts. I don't really remember, but I never fell in love with this song. I know a lot of people did, but last night was the first time I was like, oh, this feels good. Like this is a good little jam here. It was only 10 minutes, but it just felt like it had a little extra energy at the end. So I dug it. It was probably the first time I really like dug a Feel It Now.
right on. Dean, your thoughts on Feel It Now?
It's a disco song. I mean, it just reminds me. That's why we made the pin disco style, because that's what it reminds you of. The lights, I thought Getty on the lights on it was really neat. It was different lighting. What he was doing was different on Feel It Now than he did for the rest of the show. He had, hard to explain it. I don't know what it looks like on the stream. I have to go back and take a look, but it was great. I just love the disco ball effect. The crowd loves that song. I just think it's great, and it's a fun song. It's never really been extended jam wise, and it's above my pay grade whether I know if this is different than another version. I just don't get that kind of stuff. Some things I can tell right away, but something like that, I don't have an ear. I just don't really know. So I'll just leave it at that.
Right on. Okay, and then so moving on, we'll actually do the last two together. You get the jam highlight of the show, which is not the 36-minute version of a song. It's more like a 23.5-minute version of Madavon, which absolutely blazing. So when they started playing this is not at all what I expected. I kind of expected abbreviated Madavon, maybe another song, and then they're out, right? And then they close out the show with a Don't Do It. But this Madavon, I need to go back and listen some more. I think in the moment I was like, oh, this is a really special Madavon. Listened to it again this morning. I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good Madavon. But yeah, it's at least nice that they actually came back after that 36-minute jam and said, like, let's jam some more. And this is the kind of Goose that I'm excited about. If this is the way we're coming into this tour, and this is the way that they're going to play tonight, then I'm stoked, because it doesn't, you don't need to have 6-song sets. You don't need to have 7 to 8-song sets. You're there for the jams. And it feels like they kind of split that across the 2 sets, right? First set was a little bit songy. Second set was just the jams. So, Adam, what do you think of this Madavon?
Man, I really like this. I listened a few times this morning again. It felt like it was going to be really good from the moment you kind of hit that quiet floating section. It was like, oh, okay, they're going to explore this one a little. I know Madavons kind of go 2 ways for me there. You get like a bunch of dissonant noise sometimes in that space. Is it I forget which one it is, but where it gets great afterwards, like 25 minutes after that. But there's a bunch of like knob turning and noise. This one just sort of floated there, opened up. They started poking around at it, and then they hit the jamming. And this is where I felt like Peter was really shining. I thought he was adding texture. I thought he was adding a ton on the vintage vibes when they really get underneath Rick, when Rick gets going. It just felt like full band jamming, like what you were saying earlier. I think this might be the best version of the year. I don't know. I have to go back and listen a couple more times, but I thought this was just good beginning and end, focused. It didn't lose its place at all. I thought it was terrific.
Dean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess comparing it to Fiddlers, it's going to be, for me, it's tough because I have attendance bias, but I had always thought Fiddlers was the one of the year, obviously, for Madhavan. That was the best. But getting a Madhavan at any show is always good. There are no bad versions. I mean, they're all great. The part in the middle where they slow it down a bit, and I guess Peter was doing his thing, it's very spacey, and I love it. And, go back and listen to it today. If you have a headset or AirPods, you have to listen to it because they're shooting the sounds, Peter synths on both ears, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's really cool. And I just love when it gets mixed, when songs get mixed like that. It's the coolest thing. Great song, great way to end the set. I'd originally, like Neil, like you said, Rick's been doing this, like that slow ballad with the second to last song for a lot of shows. So I was kind of, what's the time? I knew 11 o'clock was the cut. So I was looking for that ballad, and then it picked me up at the end. And, Madhavan just got extended, and that was the end of it. So you just didn't see that. But if you look back at a lot of set lists, you get that slow ballad, then a pickup song to end the set, and then an encore. So, but it was great. It's getting Madhavan, so you can't go wrong.
And picking up on that point, Dean, they had no plans of doing a slow number there. If you see the printed set list, they had Empress, right? Was it Empress right after that?
Empress, yeah. And then Empress was listened.
And there was an arrow in the first set. I don't remember.
And Hot Love. So they cut Empress, Hot Love, and Arrow.
Yeah. And interesting that was the choice at the end there. And I think they made the right call, right? I think that with Hot Love at the end of the first set, and then the Empress at the end of the second set there, I feel like there was a choice point where they're like, what are we going to need to do here? Like, what's the right thing to do in this moment? And man, that was the right call. They could have played Empress. They could have played like a 15 to 17 minute Empress, and then maybe an extended encore, something like that. Wouldn't have hit the same. So really, just a very, very good call. And I think they were just riding it. I think they were feeling the jams. I think they were at least allowing jams to have space to open up and breathe, and being patient with that stuff, which to me, that's what Big Modern was all about. It did get extended. It might have been a little bit redundant, repetitive, but they were just being patient and allowing these things to build. And feels like that actually came to fruition with this Madhavan jam. So very, very cool stuff. And then to close out the show, you just get the quick 5 minutes of Don't Do It, and they're out. And I love that call too, because I don't think there are many Goose songs that are super appropriate to do like a quick, number and then they're out. So, that's Don't Do It. And that's really what that song has been doing for like a long time now. Any thoughts on the closeout, Dean?
Yeah, they had Soundcheck Don't Do It. So that was the third song. They had Soundcheck both of the first time plays and Don't Do It. So kind of was thinking that when they closed with Madhavan, knew Don't Do It would probably had a high probability of being the encore. It's a great song. It's a lot of fun. I'm particular to the one I saw Thompson's Point in 23 in July. That was my favorite version because it was so intense with such a small group, with such a smaller group of people in GA, and everybody was hardcore. So it was a little better. That version was a little better than this one, but they're both great versions. So, but yeah, you knew you were getting you knew the cut was 11, so you knew you had 6, 7, 8 minutes. How long they going off stage for? Once they come back on, you go, okay, 7-minute song. So you're going to get something solid. That's just going to bing bang and just go, which is what they did. So it's curious. A lot of people know that, El Goose has it listed as the band, but the band actually covered it from Marvin Gaye. So it's actually a Marvin Gaye song.
Right.
Baby, Don't You Do It, or something like that. So it's kind of cool if you go back. It's really fun to go back and listen to all these original versions of these songs that they cover. I love doing it. So much fun. But people can go back now. You got the band's version and Marvin Gaye's version to listen to.
Right on. Any closing thoughts on the show, Adam?
No, good closer. Get everybody singing. Probably left feeling good. I thought it was a really good show. A little choppy, like when you zoom out. But I thought it was a really good sign that they used their downtime really productively. Yeah, they debut a couple originals. I think it bodes really well for you guys. They're about to get a bunch of shows around there. I think you'll have a good run, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, I'm excited. I think this show is the harbinger of things to come. Like the band obviously is committed to jamming. That's great. They obviously were working on songs, so that's exciting. Let's hope it doesn't stop there. Let's hope there's more new music. One can only hope. They were in the studio a bunch recently, so there's got to be some stuff out there. So we'll see. 3 nights in Boston right now, which I feel so excited about the fact that they chose to do a 3-night run here. They could have just done a 1-night stop at Great Woods, and then they could have been out. It's absolutely going to destroy my productivity at work this week. I'm going to be running on like 4 hours of sleep every night. It's like, there's no way you can justify like taking 2 or 3 days off of work when they're playing in your city. So, yep, shortly after we kind of end this here, I'm going to be heading down to the venue and,
Nice.
Really, really, really stoked about this. In a way, this is a hometown show for the band insofar as, they went to Berkeley, which is about, I don't know, a 7-minute walk from where this venue is going to be. Not even, maybe like 5, if you kind of cut through the back there. So they don't come back here often. So this is exciting stuff. Like Boston's not like a routine stop for them. So I don't know, really excited about tonight. So I'm going to be there at the show. So if you're going to the show, you're listening to this now, please come up and say hi. Ryan, who is not on the podcast today because he is on a flight. He should be landing in about an hour and a half. He's going to be at the show tonight. So if you see us, come up and say hi. Dean, Adam, thank you so much for being on
Thanks
today.
for having us.
Really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon.
Have a great
Take
time.
care, everybody.
Take care.